Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy, and Trump settled his lawsuit for $16 million today.
Yes.
And?
And we had a bunch of technical difficulties earlier.
We had a bunch of technical difficulties in our Spanish segment, and also we got a big story about Lizzo.
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's go right into this Paramount story. This was huge news today, so
Paramount will pay $16 million in settlement with Trump over 60 Minutes interview.
yeah, so I kind of take this as a win-win-win situation for everybody around. Trump and the conservatives are trying to frame this as a win for them. The liberals are actually kind of getting mad about this whole thing.
They're freaking out. Yes.
But I have a real moderate kind of opinion around this thing. Everybody kind of won. Trump didn't get an apology, but he did set the precedent, and he did get $16 million. I don't even know if that's going to really cover his lawyer fees for this, because he had to have a top tier
Lawyer? Team?
law team, I guess. Yeah. He was seeking between 10 and 20 billion. Now, obviously that was an overestimate, but 16 million is pennies, especially for a suit like this. If we remember, Tucker Carlson said some things on air about Dominion voting systems, and that cost Fox News $787.5 million. That's almost $1 billion. So it wasn't out of the question that Trump could have taken home $1 billion or more with this lawsuit. I think it was kind of a weak case, and he just wanted to set the precedent and get a win in the end.
Yes. Do you want me to read into it?
Yeah, let's read into it a little bit.
So we talked about it in your morning show, but in a case that became a closely watched test of whether a corporation could back its journalists and stand up to President Donald Trump, Paramount Global decided to pay Trump $16 million to settle a lawsuit regarding editing at CBS storied 60 Minutes news program. After effects of the deal are likely to linger, journalists were infuriated Wednesday, and a senator wants to investigate whether bribery laws were broken. The company was hoping to put the issue to rest as it seeks administration approval of a merger. So probably why they did it.
Okay, so this is good. They're talking about this merger. This merger between Paramount and Skydance is worth $8 billion. The new company that will be formed, which would be Paramount Skydance, is going to be worth $28 billion in total. The merger itself is evaluated around $8 billion, so $16 million to get this thing through. The big holdup is the FCC has to approve this thing, and they weren't approving it supposedly because there were some strings with this lawsuit with Trump. Mm-hmm. So this thing's out of the way. This kind of clears the path for the merger. $16 million, that's pennies for them to actually get this merger to go forward.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue a little bit.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Paramount, which owns CBS, says the money will go to Trump's future presidential library and to pay for his legal fees, and is not apologizing or expressing regret about this story. The company announced the deal overnight before a Wednesday morning shareholders meeting.
Yeah, they didn't get an apology, and I think they're having to give it not directly to Trump because that would be maybe a conflict of interest. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I could see that's why Trump didn't get the settlement directly. I would have loved to see an apology here. I also would have loved to see Trump had taken this to the end and maybe get $1 billion settlement, because that would have sent a message to every single other news corporation to start calling balls and strikes instead of being so bipartisan with the news.
And also, maybe not an apology directly to Trump, but at least some sort of commitment from Paramount, CBS, to journalists in general to to bring forth more journalistic integrity in the way they report, especially regarding politics or actual news, and not trying to edit around things that are inconvenient for them and the machine.
Yeah, this thing's been going on since well before 2016, but in 2016, it became very evident that the media was completely biased against Donald Trump, whether you like him or whether you hate him. The media has not been honest about things for a long time now. So hopefully we can get him back in line. Trump has also revamped a lot of the reporting pool in the White House. So that kind of helps give both sides a little bit of a voice. So it's not so one-sided in there.
And Trump's lawyers claimed he suffered mental anguish following the 60 Minutes interview in October with his Democratic opponent, then Vice President Kamala Harris, and sued for $20 billion. Case highlights the decision by editors in putting news show together. At issue was a broadcast's editing. Harris was shown giving two different answers to a question about Israel by correspondent Bill Whitaker in clips aired on 60 Minutes and Face the Nation. Both responses came as part of a long-winded answer that Harris gave to Whitaker. Editing for brevity's sake is commonplace in television. What was jarring was hearing different words from Harris directly after Whitaker spoke. Trump said CBS was trying to make his opponent look better. CBS said that claim had no merit in trying to get the case thrown out. Many legal experts dismissed the president's claim.
Yeah, so before we move on to the story, I just want to make the couple big points. Fox News did settle a defamation lawsuit for almost $1 billion. Trump was originally seeking $10 billion. He was upping that.
20.
Oh, sorry, 10. No,
first.
the original price he wanted was $10 billion. He then upped that to $20 billion, and now he's settled for $16 million. I think the case was starting to fall apart, and it's better to get a win and set the precedent, even if it is pennies. I think Paramount really decided to settle, not because they felt that they were in the wrong, but because they wanted to get their merger through, and this was kind of holding it up.
Mm-hmm. And even though a lot of conservatives or Republicans or whatever might see this as a win for, media and traditional media, as in getting them to be more truthful, I don't think they're going to change their stripes.
Well, I think they will, and I think there's going to be other lawsuits on the way and things, and he's starting to take away White House privileges and things. You're already seeing them get in line. The View had handlers on there the other day where
Yes.
it was kind of like a babysitter on air, so they didn't say anything too crazy. So I already see them kind of getting in line. They're never going to be actually non-biased, but the progressives are going to need a thorn in Donald Trump's side, and if the mainstream media isn't going to be that thorn or isn't going to be as prickly as normal, I think a lot of that money is going to go into independent YouTubers such as Destiny, David Pakman, so leftist political commentators. I think they're going to have a little bit more leeway than the mainstream media. So,
Yes.
yeah, let's go into the next story if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lizzo, our cover story.
Oh, Lizzo, the cover story. Oh. And
So-
we were kind of debating, should we put a larger picture of Lizzo or a smaller one? I said, put the larger one. Nobody will recognize her in her
How
new
she
form.
looks now.
She's a shapeshifter, much like that Beyonce we were talking about yesterday.
Yes. So from Cullen Rogg, new Lizzo says she's eating a high-protein, low-carb diet to lose weight. Says she has not been on Ozempic, according to Women's Health. A lot of good advice here. Lizzo, who was once vegan, which actually made her fatter due to her reliance on carbs at the time, says a high-protein, low-carb diet has transformed her life. Her meals consist mainly of protein and vegetables. A go-to breakfast includes 2 scrambled eggs, chicken sausage, and cauliflower. Hash brown, Women's Health wrote. In case you were wondering, she goes for shredded chicken.
Yeah, and this story was a little bit older, but I just wanted to kind of bring it up and highlight this. This is a good thing, but she was kind of put forward as the
Body positive icon.
body positive icon, and now she's completely flipped the script, and she's got to be not only looking good because she's working out, but feeling good. And probably if she was on antidepressants, you maybe get off of those once you start working out as much as she is. I really hope she's not on Ozempic. So far, she hasn't lost all the weight she wants, but her face does not look sunk in or gaunt, so she doesn't have signs of Ozempic. And if the fact is she's able to actually lose this weight through exercise and dieting, that should be a big
Incentive.
motivating factor for other people to do it the healthy way.
There was a video.
So I'm glad she's coming out and saying she hasn't used Ozempic.
I think she was on it. She tried it and then she got off of it. So it's kind of murky if she actually used it or not. But there was a video on there. Do you want to watch it or no?
Yeah, let's watch the video.
Because I don't know what it was because you gathered this story. So
Well, I'm just in love with Lizzo.
if it lets me play it. Oh, she's just dancing around.
Wait, we'll just play it without the music?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So that's what she looks like now.
that's what she looks like now. Completely different. And obviously she hasn't got all the weight off, but compared to where she was, this is pretty amazing. That's where she was.
No, that's actually pretty far into it. But just being the common sense and
Yep.
reasonable carries in, carries out.
And I was never a big fan of Lizzo
No.
or the message she was kind of propagating to young women and things like that about fat positivity. But if you can take an icon like that, which a lot of people followed, and now she's made healthy changes in her life, and she it seems like she's made ideological changes, as in not promoting being extremely big.
And I did find this one interesting of why celebrities like Lizzo are ditching the vegan diet. And I've always, rallied against the vegan diet and vegetarian diet. Also, I was a vegetarian for 6 years. So I kind of know what I'm talking about, but that was a long time ago when I was young and dumb and very woke. So are we really turning our backs on veganism? People decide to follow a vegan diet for many reasons, to be able to talk about it mostly. For this person, it was a combination of inspiring moments that led me to go plant-based in 2006. A lot of my friends were making this switch from vegetarian to dairy-free. I was reading Peter Singer's essays on animal rights, and I just freaked myself out by watching Earthlings, a harrowing documentary on the horrors of the meat industry. Back in the early aughts, vegan options were fairly limited, unlike today, where you'll find plant-based meals on every menu, dedicated aisles in supermarkets, and vegan food in your favorite takeaways and fast food joints. I often feel this development is bittersweet, given how difficult I found it to be a vegan whenever he started. And the fact is, a lot of people turn to veganism because people believe that it'll also help them. I mean, they say it's for animal stuff, but a lot of people also believe that it helps them lose weight, and it actually does the complete opposite, especially now that there are a lot more options for vegans or that are completely plant-based, because a lot of that stuff is, number one, hyper-processed, not just ultra-processed, but hyper-processed. They rely a lot on things like seed oils, things that actually make it way worse for your metabolism to even try to lose any kind of weight. And also, it's not as healthy nowadays because of these options that just have a lot of sugar, have a lot of other things to make them taste good, which makes the vegan diet even worse than it was when you were just able to eat, leaves and carrots.
Yeah, I used to be a personal trainer for a long, long time. So I'm a little, no, I wouldn't say an expert, but I do know this pretty well. And I personally like meat. I think it's the healthiest way to eat, just a well-balanced diet, but not to fully cut out meat. It's really going to help rebuild muscle. The best way to kind of lose weight is to build muscle. So a lot of people that are trying to lose weight are constantly doing cardio, never really building good muscle. When you build muscle, it's going to burn fat even when you're asleep. So the best way, again, to lose weight is to
eat meat?
No, not eat meat, but build muscle, weight lift and stuff like that.
Yes, but to build muscle, you need the stuff to actually build muscle.
Yeah, and I'm not, if people want to be vegan, let them be vegan. If they want to eat meat, let them eat meat. I'd prefer one. I would say one is healthier, and that is to eat meat. But I'm not like one of these vegan people that go full mustache man if somebody eats meat and tries to make that person out to be the biggest villain in the world. If somebody wants to be vegan and that's the thing they want to do, I still would recommend them to try to build muscle, in that it's just going to be a little bit harder.
But it's not just the ideological considerations of being vegan and being good to animals. I do agree that there has to be a change in the way meat is eaten, processed, grown. The way livestock and livestock farms work is horrible, and I do think that the best way to do it, if you can, or at least to do it once, is to see how an animal that you're going to eat is killed, and then understand the process and not just make it a faceless, nameless kind of process, because that's actually taking away our humanity. And veganism tries to fix that by telling you, oh, just eat plants and you'll be fine. But the fact is, study after study after study, especially nowadays, aside from the ones that are coming from the vegan cohort, are saying that veganism especially, but also vegetarianism, does strip you of a lot of very essential nutrients, and even brain development and body, like the way your body works. You do need you can't just supplement it with supplements, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, some people are vegan, and if they're going to be vegan, just try to be as healthy as you can and not eat those processed foods. I'm not going to tell people the only way is to eat meat, because some people are dead set against it, and I do understand if they feel sorry for the animals or something like that. So just have a nice balanced diet and make sure you do get extra protein if you are a vegan. That being said, I would like to see a migration from the city to the countryside. We've seen this huge migration over the last 100 years into cities. Now that AI is kind of coming and people can work from home a lot more, I would like to see a migration back out to the countryside. And if there is that kind of migration, people can potentially grow a lot of their own food, raise their own meat, things like that. That would be absolutely fantastic to see. It would also build an independence amongst the citizens and stop giving so much control to the government itself.
But I do think there has been too much propaganda that veganism, that doesn't actually speak to what veganism actually does, and the big health implications there can be to the body. And a lot of people don't research the other side, so they're not even aware of the damage, the amount of damage they're doing to their own bodies.
Well, yeah, I completely agree with you. I just think our approach is different. You're doing the same thing the vegans did to the meat eaters.
No, I'm not telling them to eat meat. I'm saying actually investigate the consequences of your
And what I'm telling them is, if they are going to be vegan and they're not going to eat meat, you can still try to build muscle and you can get proteins from other sources. Just eat the healthiest diet you can. Don't eat those processed foods. I don't want to do the same thing to the vegans that the vegans did to me.
No, but it's giving more information.
I remember vegans getting in my face in Vancouver and it's crazy. So I don't want to be that person. And that's why I'm just, although I'm very pro meat, I would rather just be balanced when giving advice and stuff about this.
I'm not. Because also with vegan protein, it's not actually, it doesn't have the main components of protein, of animal protein that you need to be able to not just build muscle, but develop properly.
We spent a long time on this story. Let's go to the next one.
Well, it was our cover story after all. Rafa says, darn it, I missed the Spanish live again. And you'll enjoy it. Just watch the beginning because we had massive technical issues. My microphone wasn't working. So I'm sure you'll enjoy the beginning of that.
Well, actually, I made a guest appearance because I had to come on camera to fix the microphones.
That too. But happy to watch this one. Thank you so much, Rafa, for being here, and everybody else that's tuning in. But now from this helps.
Oh,
me.
and this is a good
this
story.
Helps me speak about.
Yeah, so she's gonna have a guest appearance on WDW Pro again tomorrow at noon, probably till 3. So
noon Eastern time. So 10 a.m. Mexico City time, since we live under God's time now.
Yeah, and I kind of put this story in here so you can brush up on anything they might bring up. And this is actually from WDW Pro.
Yeah, so from that Park Place, which WDW Pro runs as well. But Indiana Jones reboot reportedly in development at Lucasfilm, with new star taking over from Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I know. We heard about him. Did you get the other X?
Yes.
Show that real quick.
But I'll do that after I read a little bit into it. So someone other than Harrison Ford may soon be wearing a fedora. It'll be either a woman of some sort of color or ethnicity, or somebody else that we'll talk about in a minute. After the commercial disappointment of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Lucasfilm appears to be poised to chart a new course for one of its most treasured properties. According to a major report from the Disinsider, the studio is quietly preparing to reboot the Indiana Jones franchise, with a formal announcement potentially arriving as early as next year's D23 Expo. The project is said to be in early development, with a new take on the character being considered following the retirement of Harrison Ford from the role. So yes, putting a woman or trying to, because I think they were, with the Dial of Destiny, they were trying to set up, her face?
They're not going to put a woman in this role, and they had put Shia LaBeouf in there.
Yeah, but he went haywire, so they took him out.
I really did like Harrison Ford for this role. They just kept him way too long, and when they did try to transition into another character, they still had him in there. He just was like a shell of his former self. They needed to transition this character a long time ago. It's really hard in this age. The good thing is, really progressive story writing in Hollywood is kind of phasing out. They're seeing the major backlash with female leads. So even though they may have had the idea of putting a female lead, well, with the current culture shift, I think they're going to be smart enough to look for somebody else. I actually think who might be good in this role is actually the guy they put in the new Running Man. I didn't necessarily like him for the Running Man. I was talking about that today. But in this Indiana Jones, he seems like he could maybe work.
I forgot his name, and I was trying to remember the name of the Dial of Destiny lady. Something Waller-Bridge. Phoebe Waller-Bridge? Okay, if you know in the comments, please let me know. But the person who is probably most likely to actually take over, since they keep reusing him, is this man.
Yeah, this was a great little meme they had, and that's exactly who they're thinking about putting in there. I guarantee it. If there's not a backlash on them, they're going to try it.
Yeah, so Pedro Pascal, my favorite piñata, he's probably going to be on there as Indiana Jones, because they apparently don't understand or know how to cast men for roles that aren't non-toxic as they want them.
Yeah, I think
But it's not gonna do well if they do that.
Well, I think he's got a number of roles coming up where he might be meeting cancellation. So
hopefully
we'll see kind of what happens. But it is Disney. He is their main superstar that they try to manufacture. He did actually look good in the Indiana Jones costume, so I could see them trying to do this.
Yeah. He's also reaching, I mean, he's 50. It's not like he's this spry young thing either.
Yeah, but you don't want Indiana Jones to be too young.
No, but
That's the thing.
but
Yeah, I mean,
still.
Harrison Ford came from a different age. Even when he was in the original Indiana Jones, he looked a lot older. But at that time, men looked older than they do now. They look like men.
Yes, because they
Yeah.
actually worked and spent some time in the sun
Okay,
and not eating soy.
we can move on
Like
to
the vegans. We go back to the veganism. Actually, if you didn't know, soy and soy products increase your levels of estrogen, and that's especially worrying if you're a man because testosterone is incredibly important for you, not just to build muscle, but for your body to function properly and for your brain to work and not be depressed all the time.
Thank you, AI. Not.
Well, it angers me.
Okay, let's go into what do we have here? Sean Diddy Combs. Is that the one?
No, transportation. Rainbow
okay.
crosswalks, which we know well
Oh, Sean
because...
Duffy. That's why.
Yeah, which we know well because in Vancouver is completely covered in them. From The Advocate, so this is coming from the other side. The Advocate is an LGBTQ plus media news outlet. I don't know.
So
what I was
take this
trying
with
to
a
say.
grain of salt. Yeah.
No, let's see what they say, and it's going to be funny. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy targets rainbow crosswalks while Americans prepare for peak travel season.
Yeah, and this is kind of crazy because they made crosswalks political and this political religion,
everything
and
political.
anybody that didn't like it, that did a wheelie or a burnout on these crosswalks,
That's hate
or
speech.
very recently they cut up rainbow flags on the crosswalks. They're facing hate crimes and multiple years or decades in prison. This is getting out of control. Now that order has kind of been put in, hopefully they're going to take out these rainbow crosswalks, and the people that are going to court over these things will get minimal fines or minimal sentences and things like this.
So, as Americans crowd highways and airports for the peak summer travel season, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has announced a sweeping national incentive that could put rainbow-painted crosswalks in broader debates over how cities express identity and inclusion squarely in the federal spotlight. In a letter on Tuesday, Duffy urged governors nationwide to comply with Safe Roads, a new Trump administration program aiming to eliminate distractions from non-freeway arterial roads. Roads are for safety, not political messages or artwork, Duffy wrote.
No, I mean, it's not like he's trying to repaint them in American flags here. He's saying we need to have no flags here. We need to have nothing in it. The roads are for driving. We shouldn't have any kind of distracting art or anything else. He's just trying to be non-biased. It does upset a lot of people in the society that it's rainbow flags there. So if people can't get along, then nobody gets anything. And I'm fine. I'm kind of fine with that. It's nonpartisan.
So yet what defines a distraction is far from settled. In Alexandria, Virginia, rainbow crosswalks were permanently installed last year after residents called for visible support for the LGBTQ plus community. Really? I've heard from numerous residents who were excited to see Alexandria finally join the list of cities across the nation with this sort of permanent pride artwork.
Well, we can talk a little bit about, but we'll move on after this. We got quite a few stories, but one of the conservative headquarters down here in Mexico City has rainbow crosswalks on their kitty corner.
Yes.
That's crazy. Okay, and there's not a lot of rainbow crosswalks in Mexico City, but
No.
it just happens to be right outside the conservative building.
Yes,
Or
the Conservative Party
The
headquarters,
supposed conservative.
the PAN or the PAN.
Yeah.
The rule, yeah. So what I was going to say is I was trying to find it before we started talking about this, but I couldn't. The video of the horses getting really freaked out by the rainbow crosswalks.
yeah.
I mean, other than being an eyesore and a clear political message of the way the city or wherever they're put wants to head, it also just becomes a safety issue as well. And the fact that they're trying to mock Sean Duffy trying to say that it is a safety issue is a bit
Well, yeah, it's a
annoying.
safety issue for people that don't like LGBTQ because when they see it, they're distracted by it. And then people that are very pro LGBTQ want to take a picture of it because they're excited by it. So when anybody that's on those extreme sides are going to be distracted by this crosswalk, people in the middle might not, they're going to notice it and maybe start thinking about something other than driving because it is really putting politics in your face at a time you should be focusing on driving.
And also, I mean, I'm sure the advocate and people that want these rainbow crosswalks everywhere wouldn't be so happy with having the American flag as a crosswalk, although that would be stepping on the American flag, so they wouldn't be happy either way. But
And let's go into
Rafa asks, do you have a Pedro Pascal clip in English? Yes, it's on this channel.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's the same one where I talk about his last name.
Yeah, she's on the cover of the video. I did one where I just talked about Pedro Pascal in one of my lives, and we clipped that, but we did a very specific one for you on the English channel, and we actually submitted that to WDW Pro, and that's kind of how
we sent it to him. Yeah.
We sent it to him, and that's how we got on our first guest appearance there.
Yeah, to speak with him. Because I thought it was an important story people should know about, and I didn't see anybody talking about it. And then everybody started talking about it. Not because of me, but because people started Googling stuff. Okay, we can get to Diddy. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just want to get through the stories because we spent quite a long time on the first couple. Okay, let's go into Sean Diddy Combs here.
So Sean Diddy Combs to remain in custody while he awaits his sentencing.
Okay, so maybe start this out saying he was found innocent on most charges today. The 2 charges he was convicted on were extremely minor charges. It was prostitution charges. And that being said, usually he would have been released, and I would have expected if it was anybody else for him to get time served because he has been in custody for over a year now. That being said, once the verdict did come in, the judge says, well, I guess you're not going to want to go back to jail, inferring that they were going to let him out after lunch with probably $1 million bail, or that was the speculation. When the judge did come back, somebody gave that judge a phone call because they said that he was a violent threat to not just Cassie, but other people, and that he was to remain in custody. So I think the inference is that he may be over sentenced here, which, I mean, I don't like Sean Diddy in any way, shape, or form, but I think they intentionally, through this trial, they were trying to get a conviction on him without properly charging him with the proper charges. They should have not charged him with a RICO statute. They should have charged him with other things. They had so many videos of him, and supposedly he was like the Epstein of the entertainment industry, yet they didn't bring anybody really in on the case. So it was like they were almost trying to leave people out of this thing, and that's why they narrowed the charges on him, and they weren't able to get a conviction. The fact that he remains in prison, and it's the same prison Epstein was in, and we all know what happened to Epstein, has to be a little concerning now. I also think somebody may have made the call to say keep him in custody until sentencing, because they're going to want to charge him with a new charge now. So if they have to involve other people that are in videos that they have in evidence, well, I think they're going to have to do that now. I don't think they're going to let him slide without a conviction.
Do you want me to read into it?
You can read a little bit, but then we'll get into 2 takes of 2 lawyers. I got off of X. One was Viva Fry, and the other one was I think Trump's old attorney.
Sean Diddy Combs was denied bond after being convicted of adult-related offenses Wednesday. He was acquitted of adult trafficking and racketeering charges that could have put one of hip-hop's most celebrated figures behind bars for life. The mixed result capped a sordid legal odyssey that shattered Combs' affable Puff Daddy image and derailed his career as a Grammy-winning artist.
Well, and this is huge because they weren't able to convict him on the RICO. That means they're not able to seize all of his assets. He's going to get everything back. And if they do want to run back another trial, he's going to have plenty of money to defend himself. If they try to give him anything more than a year here, they're overcharging him because they're saying he transported prostitutes over state lines, but he didn't do it in a malicious way. He literally just texted them. They came there for profit. The reason that statute, you can get up to 20 years, that's if you have somebody in chains and you're physically dragging them over state lines. It was more of a financial transaction, so usually that would be sentenced for probably a year. He's already done a year. So although I would like to see him go to jail, they have to build an actual case to put him in jail. You can't just put somebody in jail for no reason. And I've been saying this kind of from the beginning. I've been keeping my eye on this case, and I thought they had fumbled the ball, and they did. Unless that's what they wanted to do, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the reactions of a couple lawyers.
So this is from Viva Fry. If you don't know who he is, Canadian lawyer now living in Florida, I believe. And
he's great, and he has somebody that is probably the greatest constitutional lawyer living, and that's Robert Barnes. And they have a show every Sunday, which they go into all the big court cases that are kind of going on in the U.S. and sometimes around the world.
Yes. Should I call it? should I call it? Should I read it?
No, you can just play it here.
Okay, so this was back in May when he appeared on Megyn Kelly.
Yeah, so he kind of called this, and I do like his take. It's a little bit different than mine, but
you have this entire blackmail extortion ring. They went and raided Diddy's house. There were cameras there. We know that it involves, the higher ups in the entertainment industry, if not the world of politics as well. And this entire prosecution is reduced to P. Diddy and what we know of his abuse of Cassie and potentially Jane. And then once you flesh out the fact that for whatever the reason, Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, is still involved as one of this trial. This trial is a show trial because they're going to get him on something. It might just be the, trafficking for prostitution purposes, which seems undeniable. Send him away for 10 years. Maybe he gets out after 8. And then you've successfully covered up the entire extortion ring that P. Diddy was running, much like what they did with Epstein.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Okay.
You have this
That's good. Yeah, and that was a great take. And we really don't know what's going on with this trial, but something fishy was definitely up. The other people should have been implicated, just like with the Epstein thing. Nobody else was implicated. Everything else just went away. This was kind of a show trial so people could feel okay about the whole thing. But the fact that he got off really threw a wrench into this whole thing. And now if they continue to prosecute him, it's going to almost look like a malicious prosecution.
Well, with Epstein, what's-her-face was convicted, her right-hand woman. But that was the only one. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
If you go into, conspiracy theories of Diddy maybe being some sort of informant, then it makes a little bit more sense.
Well, yeah, I don't want to go too conspiratorial, but I was saying to you, I'll just say it because I said it to you off camera, and I was like, the government can't go around literally openly blackmailing people, but what they can do, and if we remember at the beginning of this Diddy case, Diddy fled to the Bahamas in his private jet. A lot of people thought he took the most dirty hard drives he had with the real evidence to the Bahamas and hid it, and then left all the fluff kind of for the FBI to take. And then he returned and turned himself in. If that's the case, the FBI went around all of Hollywood, really stirred up a lot of concern with a lot of stars, whether they're in the music industry, Hollywood or whatever. And now this trial went on. Diddy's now released. Diddy can go to all these people and say, I still have that tape. I hid it. You're going to do exactly what I say. So he's now he's an asset that can now put the screws into these people hard. So it's going to be interesting. I don't exactly know if that's what's going on. It's just speculation. Same with what Viva Frei was doing with speculation. Everybody has speculation on this trial, but this isn't any kind of normal case. Something's going on. I wanted to see a lot more prosecutions from this, just like I wanted to see with Epstein, and it just didn't happen. Okay, I was less actually concerned about Epstein or Diddy. I wanted to see the lists and everybody else.
Yeah. So from Benny Johnson, former Epstein lawyer Alan Dershowitz says Diddy's convictions will be overturned on appeal and he'll be released on bail. A good day for Diddy.
Yeah, and Alan Dershowitz is a liberal attorney, but he did defend Trump, I believe. And
yes, he wrote a whole book about defending Trump.
Yeah, that was really good on him because they have different political views. So.
Okay.
We appreciate your time. We know that you must be incredibly busy today. Your take on this Diddy verdict. This is quite a shocker to most who are observing this right now.
Well, what Diddy did clearly was immoral, and maybe some of the things he did were illegal under state law. But as usual, the federal government overcharged him. They charged him with being a racketeer under the RICO statute. That was designed.
And yeah, that's what I've been saying the whole time. They mischarged him and overcharged him, and I think they thought they would prosecute him in the court of public opinion, and it just didn't work.
For the mafia, they charged him with trafficking people involuntarily, when the evidence suggests that most of these women voluntarily transactional sex. They wanted something in exchange for the sex. So they got him on essentially the Mann Act, which prohibits people from crossing state lines for immoral
let's pause it
purposes.
again. And let's just talk about, they did get him for paying somebody for sex, but one of the cases they got him was he wasn't even involved in it. He paid a guy to come mess with his then girlfriend, Cassie, which, okay, are you going to give him 20 years for that? And like the real charges, he was never convicted on. The real stuff was never really brought up. And also, I one interesting fact, and I know you didn't like how I keep saying this, but that video where he beat up Cassie, I didn't know, but she was running away with a bag. That bag had $400,000 of his money in it. That's why he beat her to a pulp. Then he took his bag back, and that was the story behind that. Now, he shouldn't have beat her, but he did have $400,000 of his money and that she was trying to run with.
And I keep saying that doesn't justify you beating someone up, but whatever.
But if somebody took $400,000 of my money, I'd be beating the shit out of them. And now, if it's a girl, maybe not, but I would be taking the bag back for sure.
Yeah,
So,
but still.
it's a little bit more justifiable than it's just some random girl he's beating up nonstop.
I mean, having an explanation
I
for
didn't
it.
even notice he took a bag because I was so distracted by the beating. Come to find out, there's $400,000 of his money in that bag. And that was really kept under wraps because I didn't hear about it till the trial was actually over.
But still.
Then again, I didn't pay real close attention to the trial, but
But I mean, there's other ways, in my opinion. But I mean, maybe she was trying to make a break for it, make an escape, and he was also worried about how much she knew, etc.
well, he was also in a towel there, so I think she was trying to
Sneak out.
sneak out with
Yeah,
the $400,000.
because that's the only way you can escape.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep watching or no?
Well, but if you're going to escape, you don't take the $400,000 because
Well, yes,
there's going
because
to
you
be
need money to
consequences.
escape.
Okay. No, that's good. We kind of we get the gist of the story. We've been kind of following it. We're definitely going to follow when the sentencing comes. And I'm expecting a lot of crazy details because things fell apart with this and it's not going as the government kind of planned.
Or maybe it is.
Yeah, or maybe it is.
Rafa says, even the horses recognize Satan's work about the rainbow crosswalks. And they just don't look good.
Yeah, and it's a shame that the LGBTQ took the rainbow flag as their symbol. They kind of stole it from the Christians. So, okay.
I'm trying to see if the next one will load, but it doesn't want to load.
Okay, we'll just go to whatever you have.
Okay.
You don't have the explosion of fireworks?
No.
Okay, so there
It's
was
like
this huge warehouse
won't load.
blew up spectacularly. Can you try to reload the page?
I've done it several times now, but let's try once more. No.
Okay, this thing blew up spectacularly. It was extremely cool. And after it blew up, it looked like a bomb exploded. And then all these fireworks started going off after. So,
Was anybody injured? Because then it's not that cool.
well, it was fun to
Well,
watch.
for me, what's the funniest thing is the name of the county, because it was YOLO County. So I guess they said YOLO, let's see what happens.
Well, it's just very weird because there's a pool right next to it.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like a pool you would actually go in.
Yeah, because there's a little stair.
Yeah, there's a little stair.
And
for
there's a
people.
little, that might be the adjoining property, because there's a bouncy thing. What are those called?
Oh, bouncy trampoline.
Trampoline.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, a bunch of kids must have lived there then.
Bouncy.
Okay.
Yeah, so now I'm worried
Let's
if
go-
anybody was injured.
Let's go into the next story then.
So this one just kind of, for some reason, I couldn't find this story. And I was going to speak about it in my Spanish show, but because of the technical difficulties, I didn't have time. But I couldn't find really this story here. It's making the rounds and everybody's panicking. But in the US and like US media, I can't find it. So this is translated from Spanish. But the Attorney General of the United States included Mexico on a list of countries, of the country's enemies. Pam Bondi, through an intervention in Congress, included Mexico on a list of adversary countries, along with China, Russia, and Iran.
Yeah, and that being
And
said,
this actually, yeah. That's why I put
we've
it.
been talking about these dominoes getting lined up, and this is just another one. This is actually a very big one. If you can get them on adversarial lists, assisting terrorist organizations, which they've now labeled the cartels a terrorist organization. They said those people are actually in the government. So they're really lining up all these dominoes, whether they have the evidence or not. The general public starting to believe this, and there's a grassroots movement for the American government to come into Mexico, something I don't want to see happen. But I do keep updated on this because I definitely think they are trying to come into Mexico, and I think they want I think they want to work with the Mexican government, but pressure them into it.
But it's also interesting because of the time and what she was saying before she actually mentioned Mexico. So her statement was made during an appearance before Congress in which she was questioned about national security issues, particularly regarding the situation in Iran. And we keep saying that they're saying, don't go to Iran, go to the closest country that's actually ending the lives of our citizens, Mexico.
And there's a huge movement with the MAGA movement to nationalize their military. If you nationalize your military, you need a local adversary for that spending. They can't just take away all these military contracts and stop spending trillions of dollars with military manufacturers. So they have to kind of give them a target. And I think they're trying to make Mexico that target.
And in response to a question posed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, Bondi defended the efficient foreign policy of Donald Trump and stated Donald Trump has said it loud and clear, we won't be intimidated and will keep the United States safe not only from Iran, and it's funny that she put it in the list, but also Russia, China, and Mexico from any foreign adversaries that try to end us.
Yeah.
But then the Mexican president, of course, again, couldn't find this story in English for some reason, so translated, Claudia Sheinbaum criticizes AG Pam Bondi for calling Mexico a foreign adversary. She's not well informed, which is very similar to what her predecessor, AMLO, used to say about everybody, that nobody knew what they were talking about. And this is because,
and this is what she's saying publicly, but privately she is assisting on a lot of levels with the Trump administration. So this is her trying to save face and probably not wind up in a ditch somewhere.
And she also did mention, and that's what I found interesting, actually, that Bondi wasn't informed about the current level of bilateral cooperation between the two countries. But now I'm wondering which one of the two is the one that's not informed.
I think the Trump administration's targeting Mexico. So they're lining up the dominoes, whether the information's true or not. And she's trying to save the skin on her own ass. So I think she does know there's a level of infiltration within her own party and things like this.
She said, "Oh, of course." The comments made by Attorney General Bondi have no basis during her morning press conference. Well, she's not very well informed.
Well, let's just talk about this for a second, because America wants to pressure her into cooperating with the American military because then it's justifiable for them to come in. But they have to line up the dominoes to put pressure on her to say, we're going to come in with or without your assistance. So that's kind of what's going on right now. And it's been going on for quite a little while right now. It's starting to pick up a little bit of steam. I don't think it's anywhere near where they're going to pull the trigger on this thing yet. But again, they have to line up a lot of dominoes because this has major implications, not just for Mexico, but within the United States and Canada as well. And we live in Mexico City. We used to live in Canada. I used to live in the States as well. So this story, I know all the regions kind of involved.
And I mean, what is interesting is that Sheinbaum keeps trying to speak about the cooperation, saying the reality is that there is cooperation and coordination without subordination, and we're making progress. Mexico's security strategy is working, which is laughable. With its day-to-day challenges, yes, but it's working. Is it? But also, I think the Mexican government is starting to be very, very scared about more and more stuff and connections coming out because the U.S. is ramping up its efforts to continue lining up dominoes. So we have seen, for example, one investment firm, one of the bigger ones in Mexico, fall, or like at least the U.S. Government stating that there was some involvement with that organizations and that institution, and also them revoking the visas of a lot of governors of Mexico, a lot of them from the main Morena party.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of military analysts. I follow this stuff, all the minute pieces very closely, and what they're talking about, the cooperation they're getting is to kind of let these bad people organizations fight it out and they want them to consolidate power. So there's only a few left. Then they want to pick the winner and kind of roll them up into the government. Now, does roll them up into the government mean that they would roll them up into the Morena party or a new party? I don't know. That's kind of what happened to the KGB and what happens to a lot of organizations like that. Eventually they legitimize. So I think that's what the Americans kind of want. That's a non-confront. That's as least confrontational of a solution that they can hope for.
But we also saw it with the Colombia example where they did try that. The U.S. also did try to help, and it didn't work out either. So the fact that they're going to now try to do it with organizations that are even bigger and basically just businesses, which is what they are, they're just illegitimate ones, would be interesting because the power they hold is a lot bigger than when they tried to do it with the Colombian organizations. So.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting because not that they're going to necessarily always fight for the people, but they're what they kind of want really does kind of line up what a lot of people want, meaning they're not going to want a digital currency. They might not want a digital ID. They want a level of anonymity. They don't want everything to be traced and tracked online. So a lot of people want those things too. And if they completely digitalized Mexico, there's going to be nowhere to hide their money. There's going to be no way for them to hide. So as long as they're trying to protect those things, it keeps those things protected for the people. So it's an interesting further dynamic. And no other country really has the ability to push back other than Mexico because it's a shared power structure. And yeah.
But it's funny because now, a few days ago, at least the Telecommunications Act in Mexico passed at least one of the houses in which one of the more alarming points is that they're able to now, and they changed it because before they didn't need authorization from a judge. Now they do need authorization from a judge, but they'll be able to go into your phone and get your geolocation at any point that they need to as part of this telecommunications digitalizing strategy. So it's interesting that it would be interesting to see what the opinions of the leaders would be, because now they're able, we talked about it yesterday, they're able to hack into like CCTV cameras just all by themselves. And now that the government is actually putting into place the fact that they can get anybody's geolocation at any point with a judge's order, which are their own judges.
And do you know how the Canadian telecommunication works and who really owns that?
Yes.
Who?
Subsidized by the government.
No, the behind the scenes, the biggest investors are actually the Hells Angels biker gang. If you don't know, it's completely legitimized. They own most of the telecommunication in Canada,
like Bell and Rogers.
Oh yeah, so it's very interesting that these laws have been put in here. I would think it's less owned by the government and more owned by private investors. Those private investors are obviously disconnected from the source, but I would expect that would help bad people organizations more than it would help like a legitimized government.
Mm-hmm.
So
but I mean, either way,
I think it's a way to track federal agents and things that might be trying to come into Mexico.
That too. That could be another bit of the strategy, or like at least be used now that way as well. Rafa says, yeah, I'm sure our drug lords force their citizens to become junkies at gunpoint. No, but that's the rhetoric that, is going to continue to be used, even as annoying as it is for us in Mexico who are like, well, you're the one that's deciding what to put in your body. The fact that they're seeing it this way is what is worrying. And also with 2 days from now, July 4th, and more protests coming up and more rhetoric about immigration, etc. I mean, you have to look past the emotional things, which is what I keep trying to tell people on my Spanish channel, and actually see where the dots line up and where it actually leads to, which is the U.S. being able to come into Mexico, similar to Colombia.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, and I was never really concerned until the Iran thing broke out. That's when the narrative flipped. There was Iran over here, and there was a sub-narrative over here that said we should be going to war with Mexico, not Iran. Not directly Mexico, obviously the cartels, but it flipped, and it was massive grassroots support from the Americans. It was all over the independent media, the mainstream media. I mean, they had very in-depth talking points on this. There's really a campaign. I see they're trying to line up the dominoes. One of the big dominoes they need is they need the Americans to want to come into Mexico to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that could actually be a rallying thing amongst Americans, even still, because everybody has been sadly, unfortunately, affected by addiction. So,
and it's going to be very interesting how these organizations in Mexico play this, because it's a thin line between a criminal and a freedom fighter. It's really a matter of perspective, and if they want to fight that propaganda battle, it's going to be interesting how they try to switch that narrative as well.
Mm-hmm. And also within the government itself here. Because there's quite some connections there. But speaking of annoying people, Gavin Newsom literally makes fun of President Trump, calling him one of the three stooges, and in the next breath says we're going to need Trump because he needs to bail out the film industry that Gavin Newsom and the Democratic supermajority chased out of California, and now will continue.
After seeing this clip, I don't want Trump to help California in any way, shape, or form. Let him burn to the ground. Let him burn over their own governance.
That's what I think also about Zoran Madmani, or whatever his name is. Just let them stew in their own stupidity.
And don't give them any federal assistance.
Yeah. Let them ruin themselves. Karen Bass, okay.
I feel like Trump at one of those rallies wanting to have the cameras turned to see the crowd over there. Noah was the one who brought up the Three Stooges, and it got me thinking about what was that, Alligator Alcatraz yesterday, and the Three Stooges there, DeSantis and Noam and Trump. I blame Noah for that. Forgive me. I am. We're going to need Trump because he's talked about the importance of this industry. I feel like Trump.
He's calling Trump
Why
the Three
couldn't he talk
Stooges.
properly?
He's calling Trump the Three Stooges, and he knows he needs them for a lot of different things. He needs them for the multiple disaster reliefs. He needs billions of dollars. He needs to bail out Hollywood, the tech industry. He needs them for a lot of things, and this is not how you get cooperation. So this is bad governance by Gavin Newsom. He's trying to set up for a 2028 run at the presidency, and he's hurting Californians in the process. Even if he doesn't like Trump, he needs to work with him, so he needs to keep his mouth shut.
Yes, which he doesn't know how to do. And why? But also, why couldn't he talk properly?
That's just how he is.
He was stumbling. Rafa says they're sending guns to terror groups that attack our citizens, but they'll never assume responsibility on that. No.
Yeah, the U.S. causes chaos all around the world and things like that. So, this is nothing new. What is new is they're now it looks like they're starting to target Mexico.
Again.
And there's just so many Mexicans living in the United States. We've had such good relations for such a long time. I didn't think they were going to be able to have a grassroots movement of American citizens actually calling for this. And I see the narrative now changing, and I see the sentiment changing, because when they first, I originally seen this kind of proposed about 3 years ago, and they had no support. But ever since the Iran war, the narratives change amongst Americans. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. We're definitely going to keep updated on this. This is one of the things I follow closely. Nobody else I know really follows the nuts and bolts of this. I follow all these little micro dots, and I can put them together pretty well. Okay, let's go into the next story, which was a feel-good story.
Is
What?
it?
Yeah.
So the third stooge in this case, Mark Carney.
Oh, no, this wasn't. Sorry. It's the story after this.
Okay. Mark Carney appears to take a shot at the Trump administration during Canada Day festivities, which they basically don't celebrate in Canada anymore. We find ourselves in a situation where our economy is being attacked by a trade war that we didn't start. Really?
And yeah,
you didn't start it?
There is a diagram going around of, oh God, what's his company's name again?
I always forget it.
Black.
No, it's not Black. Hold on.
Anyway, he was the head and helped manage the biggest investment company in Canada. Something Stone.
I know, yeah, but they're all called something Stone. Hold on. Oh, they're trying to delete.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, they have literally tens of thousands of investments, and now they're showing it. Brookfield's management. They're showing the countries of where a lot of their investments are from. They're almost all in the tech sector, and a lot of them are in the States, and a lot of their most recent investments are actually in the States as well. So eventually he's going to bend over and help the U.S. because that's going to help his bottom line. Mm-hmm. He's just trying to have this rallying cry, and we'll see what happens. He's a joke, though.
We find ourselves in a situation where the world is being convulsed. We find ourselves in a situation where our economy is being attacked by a trade war that we didn't start. We find ourselves in a
they're saying they didn't start this trade war, but they're the ones that were tariffing the United States for decades to the tune of 200%, 300%, and 400% on some items. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely crazy. The U.S. never tariffed them back in any major way until now, and now they're saying we're going to put equal tariffs on you, or we can both take down all of our tariffs. And now they're calling that a trade war. It's only a war because the United States finally realized what Canada was kind of doing.
And it's, ironic because Carney is so scared of, the whole world imploding, according to him, because what is actually imploding is the globalist sector and the globalist ideals that were put in and put forth, with him being one of the main architects. So his whole life's work is kind of being torn down slowly.
And he's heavily invested to the tunes of trillions of dollars through Brookfield Asset Management. And that being said, that architecture, which they were kind of planning on, and they made all their future plans for, could come crumbling down, and that's why he's trying to hold Europe, Canada, and Australia.
On the line.
Yeah, trying to maintain this fraud of this future economy that they wanted.
A situation where our values are being tested by attacks on democracy and freedoms.
Says the guy that came in when he was unelected, firstly.
Attacks that we must resist. And once
The
again,
new Canada.
as the world becomes more divided and dangerous, Canadians are uniting.
And this is a bunch of fake nationalism that he's trying to have a rally cry around, while he floods Canada with a bunch of immigrants that are destroying the standard of living for your regular Canadians.
And for other immigrants that got there first.
Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, they had one of the best immigration systems in the world, and then they just went to town and they started manipulating the Canadian economy to look like it was doing a lot better than it was. And they did that on the back of over-immigration.
And now they have one of the lowest GDP of the G7. So
We're united.
That's pretty good for this, actually. Let's go into the next story, which is the feel-good story. And then we'll head over to RUMBLE really quick.
yeah, I didn't understand why you put this one in here.
Oh, I just like this. I was watching this, and it has the whole hero's arc here. It starts out, it's tragic, it's heartwarming, it has everything. It's the story of the duck, mother duck.
I feel bad. I don't even see animals suffering.
Nobody suffers here.
I think she might be. Mama, what are you doing? And oh no! Mama!
Where is it? Oh, there it is.
Mom, get your baby!
It's children away.
Go ahead, Mama. Go on. Get your baby. Get your baby, Mama. There you go.
Oh, no.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Oh my God! Mama!
They're pretty quick.
At least she went after it.
And they got him back.
I was scared she wasn't going
That's
to.
great.
Oh, the males.
Oh. Ducks are cute.
Yeah, and it was great to see all those
Except when
little
they
ducks
chase
follow.
you. Yes.
Yeah, and they all survived. Okay,
But yeah, that's also one
Yeah.
of the issues with constructing too much infrastructure without planning where the animals will go.
and we're gonna head over to RUMBLE for the last couple stories here, and just follow us over there. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can monetize and make this a little bit more permanent, and we can put a lot more videos out.
Because we started this channel after our original one was in English, then we came to Mexico, realized people in Mexico were interested, and then we had to make an English
What
one.
she's trying to say is we have a Spanish channel with, which is approaching 10,000 subscribers, but our English channel it's very hard
'Cause we just
to
started
get
it.
subscribers when we publish out of Mexico.
Yes, so thank you so much. We'll see you over at RUMBLE, and yes.
Yeah,
Hold on, how do I end this?
and I'll log into.
Oh, we didn't say it's the same name and stuff.
It's fine. They'll figure it out.